Now, Candleblog has won the 7 Days Daisy's Reader's Pick Award a number of times in the non-political blog category.
Right.
And I was just wondering about that whole question of, a non-political blog.
Right.
It's sort of, if I'm of the belief that everything's political, even like
Right.
a mindless disaster movie may have some, message about gender roles or race or something snuck in there insidiously. So what do you? I don't know if you thought of that quote unquote non-political blog category, because you also do share some politics. I'm wondering what your filter is when you put stuff up there.
The only filter that I apply to the content of Candleblog is stuff that is interesting to me and that I think would be interesting to other people who think like me.
Oh.
I mean, that's it. The blog, I really do the blog for myself. It's I would say the number one reason for my blog, the reason I started it, and the number one reason why I keep it, because my readership has never been tremendously large. I keep it for myself. It's a repository of interesting stuff that I've seen. It's like a list of bookmarks for me, and it's in chronological order as opposed to alphabetical order in a bookmarks folder or something like that. So it's like research material for me. I use my own blog as much as I use Google when searching for stuff, because the stuff I want to find I've already blogged about.
You know it's there, right?
Yeah, and I have a reasonably good search engine on the blog that, so it really works out well for me. As far as the political versus non-political thing, I mean, that's a distinction that 7 Days made. The first 2 years that they had an award, they didn't make a distinction. Huh. It was just Best Vermont Blog.
Right.
Candleblog did win the first year of that, which the first year they ever had it. I think 12 people voted in the category or something like that. Mostly my friends and
congratulations.
Family. Thank you. And then by the second year, Philip Baruth had started Vermont Daily Briefing, and so he won the second year by a lot, because he's a very well-known person.
Right.
And so it was the third year that they decided to split it into political and non-political. And I think that the reason was that there was such a specific and devoted audience for political blogs in Vermont. There actually aren't that many. Like if you define political blog as a blog that is 90% or more about politics, we're talking about really a handful of blogs. You've probably had them all on your show.
I have to go deep here.
Exactly. So, and Candleblog is very much not, it's the opposite of that. We're 90% non-political stuff. It's not that I avoid politics. I actually am reasonably politically engaged, but I don't really particularly like blogging about politics, or I also don't really read political blogs. Like a lot of my friends, a lot of very good friends of mine are political bloggers. And I respect them, and I really am into it, and I love talking with them about politics one-on-one. But I find political blogging, sorry out there, political bloggers.
Okay, I'm bracing myself.
I find it wasted energy.
Really?
And let me explain that a little bit for myself.
I've thought about that.
If I go to a political blog and it's a blogger with whom I am politically aligned, right? Somebody I agree with, Steve Bannon, John Odom, the people, Philip Baruth.
Right.
People who like me are basically lefty, democratic, liberal people.
Sure.
I'll nod my head and I'll agree with what they're saying. And if I go into the comments, there may be somebody disagreeing and I can get into an argument with them, but it feels like an echo chamber to me. It feels like I'm talking to other people who agree with me, and
Sure.
Sure. And if I go to a political blog that I disagree with, someone whose ideology is opposed to mine in some way, then it makes me angry and frustrated, and I want to show them how they're wrong. Yeah, and it's a compelling feeling. It's definitely compelling. Like I want to sit there. There's a famous XKCD cartoon, which is the stick figure cartoon that's very popular on the web, and it's this little stick figure typing furiously at a computer, and the woman stick figure says, "Are you coming to bed?" And he says, "I will in a minute. Someone on the internet is wrong." And he's typing. I feel that draw.
Yeah.
But it sucks the energy out of me, and I feel like I'm not doing any good, because there's no way I'm going to convince anyone that I'm right. And if I'm just with a bunch of people in an echo chamber, then we're not really doing much good. So it feels like wasted energy to me.
Yeah, it can really feel like you're righting wrongs in the world, and also that you're sort of doing activism. But did did your rant turn into an email to, the legislator who actually has something to say about that?
Ideally, that's what happens, but I think that most of the time it ends there. I will say with one caveat, my friend N. Todd Pritzky has a blog called Dohi Mir. He's in Fletcher, Vermont. I don't know if you've had him on your show, but N. Todd has actually taken the next step. He has gone from being a blogger, and he experienced this sort of like feeling like he wasn't doing enough kind of thing, and he is now actually actively engaged in nonviolent protest and activism. He just got back from Gaza and Israel, and he's really walking the walk.
Right.
And so that's how he resolved that. How I resolve it is I just don't go to political
blogs. Yeah. Huh. And then as he gets, more, on the ground engaged like that, then he's doing journalism when he comes back and talks about what he saw, and it's not just cutting and pasting and linking and saying.
Right, exactly. It's from his own eyes, his own experiences.
Right.
And, exactly.
That's actually one thing I've noticed about Candleblog is like the whole blogosphere will be screaming about whatever it is this week. Michael Jackson, Sarah Palin, Mark Sanford, whatever is like, the headline of the week. You can go to many blogs and really feel like you're at the same blog. But you go to Candleblog, and I don't know if you do a great job of consciously ignoring what everyone else is talking about, and looking for stuff that is neglected and by the side of the road and needs more of a spotlight. I don't know if that's a conscious activity of yours.
The only conscious part of that is that if I'm going to add my 2 cents to a subject that's well covered, then yes, I would put it through a filter of, is the 2 cents that I'm adding something that I haven't seen somewhere else before, and would people be interested? Would someone like me be interested in reading that because I haven't seen it elsewhere? Yeah, if nobody needs another blog post about Michael Jackson. If I had a personal connection to it that I thought was interesting, I would post about it, but I don't. I have opinions like everybody else, but so what?
Right.
No, yeah, that's right. I'm not interested in adding to the volume of that unless it's worth something.
Sure.
And on poliscifi radio too. It's something that Steve and I talk about because we do address big stories. The major political story of the week, for example, when we talk politics.
Right.
We will address it like this week. The June unemployment numbers had come out, which were devastatingly bad again, and it was going the wrong direction.
Yeah, they're saying jobless recovery. Get ready for a jobless recovery.
Yeah. So, but there's not much to add to that hasn't been said. We had to address it because it was huge and it's bad. But what are we going to say? We didn't dwell on it. We just kind of addressed it and then moved on. We tried to focus on topics that are the important stuff, that you don't necessarily get from watching CNN for 10 minutes. The same story, but maybe the angle on it that you're not necessarily hearing from your mainstream media and that kind of thing.
Sure. One of the on Candleblog, you sort of have a banner of all the topics you cover, and one of them is, does it say geek culture or geek life or
the nerd life? I think it says.
The nerd life.
Yeah.
Now, what is? There's this. I think Newsweek had a sort of "We're all Trekkies now" cover story, and that the geeks have inherited the earth, with Obama sort of being Spock, and we're in this like
geek in chief.
We're in this, revenge of the nerds zeitgeist right now. What is geek culture or nerd culture? That's just sort of.
I don't know. It's interesting. I think from my perspective, I don't know how old you are. I'm going to turn 40 this year, and people in my age group, I wonder if it's. I'm right at this age when personal computers were becoming ubiquitous when I and my peers were in middle school, basically.
Okay.
We'd get like super cheap. This is like TRS-80,
Right.
But they were around. They were in the libraries in every school, and people had them in their house.
Right.
And so I feel like I kind of am in a generation that grew up with computers as a sort of maybe the first generation that grew up with computers as a really common thing.
Sure. And they showed up in our lives. They weren't sort of already here, but they did show up like appeared, 6th grade, 7th grade.
Right, exactly. Right when I was like, oh, look, computers. And if you're already of a mindset that likes kind of science and nerdiness, at which I was, then it's just a natural thing. So, because my perspective is from within that generation and within that culture looking out, I'm not necessarily the best person to ask about the sort of meta meaning of the
It's asking
nerd
the fish
culture.
about the water.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah.